Welcome to Democracy 2.0 with Wayne Bouchard. And this is your co-host, Malcolm Berman. As you know, you're listening to me, and this is being heard on malcolmpresents.com, a new, well, it's not new, but it's a new streaming internet platform, which, stay tuned because there are a lot of exciting things that are going to happen. But right now we're talking about democracy. Or is there a democracy, or will democracy continue into the near future? And take it away, Wayne.
Well, that's an interesting question. Will democracy continue? That's that is once again up for consideration. The Supreme Court, the conservative majority, has, they've just pushed the country so far to the right on these issues of the Second Amendment and guns, voting rights, gerrymandering, regulatory authority, the gutting of the EPA's authority, campaign finance, all this stuff that's been going on for the last 20 years, but it's really got everybody's attention finally this week when, or not this week, a couple of weeks ago, when they handed down their decision on Roe v. Wade. And, in theory, this right-wing shift is just getting started. There's a lot of things that they could disrupt at this point. And, one of them being election laws. The interesting thing is that, throughout most of our history, Jefferson, Lincoln, FDR, they believed that, that the constitutional law and the interpretation of the Constitution was inextricable from politics. They were, that was something that the Constitution was written as to how we would build this nation. And then we've had little twists and turns here and there, but in our lifetime, in my lifetime and in yours, we had the Warren Court, and for the first time, the liberal court, and so we can go back and blame it all on the liberals. They began to embrace this doctrine of judicial supremacy rather than, viewing it as a political document. They said that the final authority of the Constitution rests with the courts, not with politics, not with Congress, not with the party in power in the White House, but this is what happened, and now the conservatives are embracing this same judicial supremacy theory, and they are interpreting the Constitution for from a judicial point of view, and they don't care what the political consequences are. They don't care what they're going to do to the country, and they don't care how disruptive they may be.
Well, I'm not sure if they don't care or they'll do.
Well, maybe that's a poor choice of words, Mel.
If they feel they're right, and they'll go ahead with it. But it seems the country is not necessarily run by either the courts or the politicians. It's in the last few instances, it's run by religion.
Well, there is some truth to that, but our political institutions you know, the administrative branch of government, the White House, the congressional, and I think the congressional branch of government is really to blame. The House and the Senate, they just have not done anything. You know, and it doesn't, I don't think it matters whether the Republicans are in control or the Democrats are in control. They just haven't done anything.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and the only, of course, the only way to hold the court in check is to, you know, is to have a strong congressional, you know, contingent putting pressure on them, and a strong White House, and we don't have either one. You know,
Yeah.
you know, we can go back to FDR. You know, he was somewhat successful because with the court, because he threatened to pack the court.
Yeah.
He never went through with that threat, or I think he was blocked from that threat. But the Supreme Court. Go ahead, Malcolm.
What was the original number on the Supreme Court? I don't think it was 9. I think it was 7, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I would have to Google it.
Yeah, because that's not in the Constitution.
No, there's no number.
The number.
But FDR had a plan that if he would appoint new justices, if a justice turned or had reached the age of 70 and hadn't retired. In other words, he wanted them to retire at 70, and if they didn't retire at 70, he was going to appoint a new justice.
Yeah, well, yeah. The way they, you know, interpret laws, or the space, or the Congress, we have to be originalists. We have to, what the people of, you know, who wrote the Constitution, what they meant. Who the hell knows what they meant? Number one. And number two, did they know that people are going to live to be 90 years old?
No.
I mean, they died at 45, 50.
Right.
So
even when they passed the Social Security, nobody realized how long people were going to live.
So now they say, oh, they have to be for life. But now life, you have justices who are in their 80s. And what the hell, you know, their minds might be sharp, but they have a different reference to the world than people in their 20s and 30s do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if they know what TikTok is. Or the things that we're going through, you know, like, because I don't know. I see things, you know, and I'm relatively young. I'm in my 70s, but I don't know what the hell's happening. I watch television and watch some of these shows. I don't know who the hell these people are. Because they're actors, you know, they're 18, 19, 20, you know, even 30. I've never seen them before. You know, you should give me a picture if it doesn't have.
Well, I'm going to give you a quiz now. Do you know who 11 is?
Who 11 is?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Now we're going to get all kinds of cards and letters on this one. 11 is the heroine in Stranger Things, a Netflix phenomenon.
Oh, well, I saw the first 2 Stranger Things, and it became too, you know, too sci-fi type for me. It sort of goes,
see, I love that. I love that.
I like when people deal with people. You know, and it's
I want to stretch our imagination a little bit.
I mean, I love that what just went off, This Is Us. I don't know if you ever watched that series.
Yeah, I was forced to watch it sometimes with my wife, but I think I got out of it for the last few years.
No, well, it's over, so.
Oh, good. Thank God.
So now you don't have to spend time with your wife on the television. I won't tell her. Make sure she doesn't listen to the show.
So let's go back to the Supreme Court. They decided that next year they're going to take on this case that involves gerrymandering.
Yeah, well, slowly but surely, and this is what people don't realize: the Republican Party is setting up these states that it's impossible for them to lose the state legislature, because they have gerrymandering the districts that a Republican has to win. And
Well, actually,
of course, the Democrats did it when they had the power.
and Democrats still do it in blue states. But actually, this case that the Supreme Court is going to hear is going to be that I think, if I understand it correctly, they will overthrow a ruling that's been on the books that allows the state legislatures to interpret the constitutionality of things.
Well, the thing that they could overturn the I don't know for the electoral college, but they can overturn how the state rules, how the state voted on national elections.
Correct. But the state courts won't have any jurisdiction. The state legislatures won't have any jurisdiction.
The legislature will have the jurisdiction, not the courts.
Correct. It's known as the independent state legislature theory. And it's only been around for, maybe 10, 20 years. Yeah. And this is the, interestingly enough, this is the theory that guy, John Eastman, was using when he was attempting to overthrow the 2020 election. It's saying only the Supreme Court justices, would, or to say that the state legislatures, not the Supreme Court, the state legislatures, could make that decision that the electors that have been elected in the election, that's kind of a confusing way of saying it. They could put together a new slate, saying that they were there was fraud, all kinds of election tampering, the boxes that were under the desk, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So
they snuck in at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. They took extra boxes in Georgia.
And interestingly enough, several of the Supreme Court justices are already on board. They've already suggested that, that they favor this theory.
Well, I could tell you how it's going to turn out. Be 6-3. Or 5-4. Or 5-4 if Roberts changes his mind.
Roberts might change his mind, and there's one other, I can't remember whether it's Gorsuch or Kavanaugh that's on the fence.
Really?
Yeah, have not made up their mind yet. So, and we don't know what Roberts will do, but
I know what Clarence Thomas is going to do.
Yeah, and Alito, but this would throw our whole federal election system into chaos. Absolute chaos.
More so than it is now.
Oh, absolutely. More so, because in theory, Trump could have turned the election.
Yeah. Well,
so by 2024, and God only knows who's going to have an opportunity to invoke this new strategy. God, it's really hard to determine. The thing I think the thing that really bothers me the most, Malcolm, is that the liberal, the progressives, whatever the hell you want to call them, seem to be in a total state of disarray, along with President Biden. They really don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle this stuff. But for the last, I'm just going to throw out a number, last 40 or 50 years, our friends in the Republican Party have been working at the local level, going to local meetings, which are boring as hell if you've ever been to them. They've been organizing on the local level and on the county level and on the state level, and they've gained political power, and the liberals just gave it up. They gave it up. I can remember back in the 60s, 68 presidential election and afterwards, there was a tremendous effort on a part of the young, and I'll call them progressive Democrats at the time, including myself, to gain political party, to get power away from the political bosses, to go to political caucuses and have an effect on local government. And then they gave all that up because the politicians, the congressmen and the senators courted the, for lack of a better word, the Republicans call them the elites, the corporate and media elites. And they thought that that's all they had to do to maintain political power. And guess what? The Republicans beat them at their own game.
Yeah.
That's what we have lost. So
you're getting me more and more depressed. But it's actuality.
I mean, that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, it's a lot of hard work. How did the 68 political convention, turn up in chaos the way it did? It was because of young, I'll say progressives, radical people being involved in politics.
Well, and the authoritarian John Daly. With John Daly.
Right. I once was in Chicago between 1968 and 1972, sometime around there. And I was in a cab and I criticized Mayor Daley, and the cab driver pulled over to the side of the road and threw me out.
Really?
Yeah, he would not take me to wherever I was going. I was there on business. But the young people in this country, except for the ones that are involved in climate change, don't have anything to do with the local political government structure. And that's where it all starts.
Yeah,
that's where you wrestle away all the authority to get from point A to point Z. And now we're at who God only knows where, point zero on the scale, and the conservatives are about ready to hand us our political tail in a bucket because we have not paid attention to any of this stuff for the last 20 or 30 years.
Well, that's what I'm worried about because of, right now our economic situation, it's not that bad, but it seems that bad with inflation and gas prices.
That's a result of, and you could say it's a result of a lot of different things, but, that's a result of this chaos over in Ukraine. It's also a result of, China was really heavily involved in locking down certain parts of their country to have a zero COVID policy, and that kept workers at home and nothing got produced. So, we have a supply chain issue where, some of these things in the supply chain, let's just take microchips, integrated circuits. They're 3-4 months behind.
Yeah, well, for me, it's sort of, I don't know why American industry didn't see that much and didn't see that far ahead and let the microchips, which is almost important to almost every piece of machinery there is, be 80% made in China.
Malcolm, have you ever heard of the term just-in-time, JIT manufacturing standards? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
You keep just enough inventory on hand to do this week's production. Brilliant strategy. Brilliant. until there's a supply chain issue. And then then you're screwed. Look at what happened to baby formula. Look what happened to chips. Look what happened to all kinds of things.
I always thought that American business was, the top. The American businessman, the economic mind, they were the best in the world. But the last few years, I've determined, no, they're not. They might be the richest because they're the greediest, but are they the best business people? They're like Trump. They have the money, they have the flash, but they go belly under. They go bankrupt.
Well, I read an article in Bloomberg. It was either yesterday or the day before about American manufacturers. The CEOs are bringing the manufacturing capacity back to the U.S. because they have to have a certain amount of it here so they can control it.
Mhm.
And this whole JIT manufacturing inventory strategy is going to be rethought by a lot of corporate executives because they just can't afford it. Just can't afford to think that way anymore. It cuts down on the inventory. And do you know what's important about inventory? Inventory tax. So if you close out your quarter and you've got $1 million in inventory, they're going to tax you on that $1 million.
Yeah.
If you only have $10,000 worth of inventory, just think of whatever the percentage is. I'm not sure. It's going to be a lot less. So that's why they incorporated that strategy. It was a brilliant strategy. And it was developed by the Japanese manufacturing companies initially.
Yeah. So were they? Well, the thing is, as far as I can see, China is leading the way. I mean, they're going to surmount the U.S. as far as abilities, a big business, and and actually controlling the world like we did at one time.
The thing that the United States has going for it that it's always had, and I believe this is because of our diversity, because we are not just one nationality, we are a multiverse.
We're a conglomerate.
We're a little bit of everything, but we are the greatest innovators on this planet. Chinese are fantastic copiers, but they can't innovate to save their ass. So we still have an advantage, whether or not we take that advantage and we bring it back to this country or to some other country that has less, less of an influence on world politics.
Mm-hmm.
When are the corporate executives in the world going to recognize that there's this phenomenal labor force, low cost labor force throughout the whole not entire continent, but most of the continent of Africa?
Yeah. Well, when are we going to realize that it's a one world economy? When will we realize that?
I think we're there now.
No, everybody. The United States is the best. That China is best. Why can't we all work together and make it a better world? I'm almost to think of Star Trek. Why can't there be a united world?
The United Federation of Planets.
Right. Well, I don't even want other planets. I'll take this planet. I mean, right now, I'm not sure whether there is other life outside of us. As a matter of fact, sometimes, I would want to write a book. Is there life after birth? I remember going to college, and there were so many different philosophies of what life is and what it means, and is there a life, and is this only us versus the world? Like most of the time when I'm not with you and talking to you, I'd say 90% of the time, I'm not even thinking about you. You do not exist in my mind. Yeah, possibly.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I have such a vital impact on your life.
Well, do you think of me during the week?
Sometimes.
I mean, you wake up and you say, I wonder how Malcolm is feeling now. You got problems. I got to talk to Meg
No,
about it.
when you take a look at the Hubble telescope and this new one, we haven't gotten anything back from this new one. They're still testing it out. When you think of they are getting images that are 300 million light years away. 300 million light years. Now, a light year is 186,000 miles
No, 100. It's 186,000 miles per second.
per second.
And how many seconds times that by how many seconds in a year?
Yeah, that's just phenomenal how far away. So there's this gigundo, expanse of galaxies and universes. And for us to think we're the only living creatures in this vast multi-universal system that has been developed is just folly, just pure,
Well, I don't know
pure
how.
folly.
I know in LA, you look at the stars and see stars, but you go out into the desert or in the ocean, in the evening, you take a look in the sky, and every time I go there, no matter how many times I go, I say, oh my God, there are so many stars out there. And if you realize each star is its own solar system, each star has its own planets ringing around it. Some are bigger than the sun, some are smaller than the sun.
But those stars exist only in our galaxy.
Well, some of them might be dead already, because by the time light travels to us,
Right.
they could have expired. They could have blown up. The same way as Earth. Well, I don't think the Earth is going to blow up, but I think it might become inhabitable by man, the way things are going. But then again, I'm an optimist.
There's a solution out there, and we will probably wait until the 11th hour and 59th second to doomsday to find that solution.
Well, the question is, when we find the solution, will we be able to implement it to save us? Because some people say it's the point of no return.
Yeah, but there's always another side to everybody's theory. I believe there's a solution, and we'll find the solution. There are a lot of really brilliant people on this planet, and we'll come up with a solution, just like we'll come up with a solution for democracy.
Or will God save us?
I think God's probably had enough of us.
You think he took a vacation for the last 10 years, or?
I think he's looking down and saying, he or she or them or it, whatever God is, and saying, these guys really have screwed up. We gave them every opportunity, and they have really screwed them all up.
I wonder if God if there is a God, whether he regrets giving us free will. Well, why the hell did he give us free will?
So that we could innovate and create.
What did we have to create if he could create for us?
So we could have, we could have art. We could have people like, Da Vinci, and people like Beethoven, and people like, Einstein and Mozart and Abraham Lincoln.
And that's why the groups
Thomas Jefferson.
And that's why the groups of people in education want to cut art out and think it's a waste. Let's go to the 3 R's: writing, reading, writing, arithmetic, and forgetting about arithmetic. Reading and writing.
It's a mistake.
I grant it. I agree with you. But some
the arts are just as important as science.
Well, that's what you were talking about. You're talking about the what the Chinese or the Japanese lack. They lack the imagination that the Americans have, and part of the imagination that the Americans have is because of the arts.
There would, what good is all these, the finest computer equipment and software on the planet, if you don't have a chance to enjoy life, why maybe going to the opera tomorrow night?
Oh,
Just saying.
what are you going to see?
Oh, I'm not going to the opera
oh.
tomorrow night, but if I was, I would like to go see almost anything.
I
If you go to the Metropolitan Opera, it's a world-class entertainment event just to be there.
I still cry at the end of Madame Butterfly.
Uh-huh.
Okay. When she commits suicide.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, I gave away the end of the story. I don't know whether people will like that.
In the meantime,
we're out of time.
a spoiler. Malcolm, I sent you a list of 3 things that I wanted to talk about.
We covered some of it.
And then I added something else, and we didn't talk about Boris Johnson, Biden's terrible image, and what the Democratic Party options
Supreme
are.
Court, and we talked a little about the September 11th.
And then we talked about the January 6th hearings coming up.
Right.
And then I was just appalled by the fact that when I read that the FBI director Comey and the assistant director McCabe had their taxes audited. Who do you suppose ordered that? Or is it a coincidence that these 2 guys who were battling against the
Trump administration,
the chief executive officer, got their taxes audited?
I don't understand. And every time something happens against what happened against Trump for the January 6th, you look at the Fox and they talk about something entirely different. They go, well, how about Hunter Biden? How about and they want to get to
you think the January 6th invasion of the Capitol was bad? How come you never talked about the Antifa people in Portland, Oregon?
Right.
Yeah, like there's a comparison. There's a comparison between those 2 events.
Right.
An insurrection versus a mob.
Yeah.
Just looking out to have fun.
Anyway, young man, get together some new things. Next week should be an interesting week because I think they're going to do the I keep on saying September 6th, January 6th.
January 6th hearings. We're going to resume next week.
What happens at that? And we didn't even touch about the gun control and what happened in Chicago.
It's a shame.
Anyway, I will speak to you.
It was it was the suburb of Chicago.
Next week. Don't go to any parades.
I'm not going to.
Be careful. Send my love to me.
Take care. Have a good week.
You too. Bye.
Keep smiling.